Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked For. This time, House of Quark. We're going to the House of Quark. Not quite that House of Pancakes or Waffle House. House of Quark. I know it's all been checked before. But speaking of places where you can get a lot for a little, become a Patreon member. IABD.com. Wait, patreon.com/IABD. If you go to the other one, I don't know what you're going to find. But either way, follow us there. Doesn't take much. You get all the bonus stuff from us and the mothership. You get in early with the mothership. You get all the special episodes with us. You can look at our mugs, for better or worse. And we got some new co-hosts coming up in the near future that will be even better to look at than us. And that's not even a sexist comment. That's just we have beautiful people coming on the show. That's coming up. So become a Patreon member in the meantime. Patreon.com/IABD. In the meantime, let's enter it. The House of Quark. DS9. It's all been tracked before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Tracked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And still aligned, Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. It is a good day to die, but we will try not to as we cover House of Quark. First impressions.
Well, I suspected it was going to be a Quark episode.
What? Why?
And I was right. And
What did you think that, Keith?
I just had a feeling. I think it's something to do with the wormhole gods or something.
Okay. Did you not
yes.
like?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Well, the bit was supposed to sound more positive than that because yes, I did enjoy it quite a lot. I'm not sure if it hung the moon, so to speak, but
no, and the thing is, have we ever got into an episode where like this episode hung the moon? Past like sitting on the edge of forever.
The thing is, I think when episodes do hang the moon, we forget to say that. I think we always forget.
I feel like it's always only brought up to say that it did not hang.
No, yeah, you're right.
Need to make sure we bring it up to hang the moon.
Yeah. No,
there's some episodes coming up at Deep Space Nine. I want to say hang the moon, so I'll try to remember.
So yeah, there are things that I wanted to see or would want to see in an episode like that, and they gave a lot of that, and so that's what I would have to say.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it'd be more focused on Quark, but we have a Klingon episode along with a Keiko Bryan B plot, which did not fill me with excitement, generally speaking. That said, I thought there was enough fun Quark stuff and the idea of him running the thing or having a house of, in the Klingon Empire and all that stuff. Fun enough. I wish it'd been more fun. I thought it could have been more fun.
Yeah.
There was way too much talk about honor and nonsense, and we'll get into that. But not enough Gowron, and I'll get into that too. But yeah, based on if I had been completely spoiled and knew, okay, here's the A and B plot, blah blah blah, I'd have really gone with trepidation. I kind of went in the other way, like, oh, it's a Quark episode. I think this will be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think that still carried it through. And even the Keiko Bryan part actually didn't make me mad or anything. So low bar, that's a low bar, I know. But I thought actually that might have been some of the, again, so low bar, but some of the better Keiko Bryan stuff. But anyway, so yeah, this first impressions.
I agree with you both. I think Keiko Bryan subplot kind of drug it down. It was a very interesting subplot, and it was a very exposition-y subplot of things have changed, which we need to make sure that we know things have changed. We'll talk about that more with some of the details. But I think it was their B plot was very much designed to reinforce the two-part opener of Deep Space Nine's not the same anymore, and also give good reason to not see Keiko all the time. She can't always be at her grandma's 100th birthday party on Earth. So we needed some exposition on where she could be through most of these episodes.
Nice.
And I kind of liked the look of their marriage, but combined with the much heavier elements of exposition and life on the station's changed, it was kind of uneven. I love Ferengi episodes of DS9. I love Klingon episodes of DS9. To the best of my knowledge at the moment, I think this is the only time they try to combine the two into one. And it had mixed results. I do think if they'd given it over fully to that and not had the Keiko Bryan subplot, we would have had a better deal of it. Because I really liked a lot of the stuff they did with the Ferengi for humor purposes. And they really clashed with the Klingons well. And I think this was the first real. I mean, we've had Ferengi episodes before that focus on Quark, but I think this is the first time they really went with the humor of Quark, of throwing him in a fish out of water situation
Mm-hmm.
instead of just bringing another Ferengi to interact with him. And I think that element of it worked really well. And I'm excited to see more Ferengi episodes in the future that deal with Quark and Rom and Nog going out of their element, because that's what makes a Ferengi episode to me. Or going back to Ferenginar works too. Having the Ferengi come to the station and do business deals, not as exciting. So we'll get to some really good Ferengi episodes. But overall, I liked it. I was very excited to see Gowron make his first Deep Space Nine appearance. He will be in multiple episodes over multiple seasons. Again,
Okay.
no spoilers, but in terms of how many seasons or how many episodes. But Gowron, I'm pretty sure, does more DS9 than he did Next Gen. So if that helps, yes, he does. He does more DS9 episodes than he did Next Gen episodes. So we're going to get plenty of Gowron in DS9. Maybe not plenty. Maybe there is never a label where you want to say that you've gotten plenty of Gowron. but we're going to get more Gowron, which I'm pleased about. I felt like in this appearance, we had the most toned down Gowron.
Yes.
And the most Gowron Leslie Gowron. And I'm looking forward to more bug-eye intense Gowron in the future, which I know we'll get. I know we'll get it because I remember it.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's my problem with the episode, is all these honorable Klingons screaming, blah, blah, blah. But the one guy I want to be, up there is Gowron, and he's like way down here, like, I'm a leader now, so I'm very controlled. But I'm glad later we'll get back to
It's probably because Worf's not there to stir him up. We just need to get Worf over to Deep Space Nine, and all will be.
I really enjoyed the balance of that, actually. What was I going to say? I think what really made the episode work for me in particular was just the exploration of it. Well, all right, I'm going to start over. What's the brother's name? Dagar or something? No, the Klingon brother.
Oh.
Dagor?
Wait, Dagor?
Yeah.
Dagor. Yes.
Right. So they're having these political discussions with the couched terms and the do we have an understanding kind of thing, and the backdoor honor workarounds and so forth, and the things we'd come to expect, and get frustrated with the whole the stereotypical picture of what Klingon honor is, but they're not really doing that, blah blah blah. But I think it was really balanced by the board, the council, actually seeming to be on the up and up, which and Gowron had to be the figurehead of that, or be the leader of that, and it worked. I thought. While
we're on Dagor, he's the one that was played by Carlos Carrasco, which Carlos Carrasco is actually a major league pitcher, MLB pitcher, played for the Mets the last couple years. But this is not the same Carlos Carrasco. But you might recognize him, all right? And I did not recognize him from this, but I do now that I looked at his credits. He is one of the guys on the bus in Speed.
Yes.
Yeah, and then once
that's what he's best known
like,
for.
Oh,
yeah.
He's
best known for.
Yeah, he couldn't throw him up.
Speed, Parker, Blood In, Blood Out, and a short called One. So not a lot of. Yeah, he does have some credits from the last couple of years. Cholo Zombies and Cholo Zombies Monstro.
Okay.
It looks like he's done some Spanish language stuff. He did do Star Trek Progeny. I don't know what that is. It says TV series, but it must be a web TV series.
Okay.
As Captain Jonas Bensley. That's not an official property. He did do an episode of Parks and Recreation, an episode of CSI. He did the video game Resident Evil 4. He does a lot of voiceover work. Episode of Angel. 3 episodes of DS9, believe it or not. This is his first of 3, but he will play Klingon again, but not the same character. This was his only appearance as this character. And then he'll do a one episode part on Voyager again as a different character. I
kind of like when the makeup, you still see the person, you recognize the person through the makeup.
Yes.
And I guess that's more about the actor and where you've seen them than anything else. But
agreed. So we start this episode with a scene in Quark's bar where it's only 9 p.m., but it's empty. And Morn is getting lucky, going home with a woman, an attractive woman.
It's funny you say that, Jimmy, because I wrote that exact same tweet. I wrote, Morn getting lucky, ? Here's the question for you guys. Is it lucky if you're paying? Do we think that Morn picked her up, or is he paying her?
I thought it was a Dabo girl or something. It was.
That's what
I
I
thought it was
thought.
kind of a.
And maybe
Yeah.
maybe that's me smearing Dabo girls as paid sex workers. Although I don't know, we shouldn't be doing that either, right?
So I don't think Quark would be upset that he's leaving if Quark was getting money from him sleeping with a Dabo girl.
That's a good point.
So
That's a very good
I
point.
don't think it was a Dabo girl. I think it was just an attractive woman hanging out the bar. Because Quark would not let a Dabo girl off early unless she's earning money. And if she's earning money for him, it would be mad Morn's leaving. So
Has that been established that happens?
good for
I
Morn.
don't remember. Okay.
No. There's no, as far as I know in canon, there's no even hint that the Dabo girls are prostitutes. He makes them dress skimpily to attract people in to play Dabo, but there's no other business as far as I know. And at least one of the Dabo girls we'll meet in the future is very assertive and would never do that. So I don't think there's any prostitution going on. I think the holosuites are where he sells the sex. Yeah. So if you're leaving the establishment, you're not going up for the sex.
I love the Dabo girls either way, so good to hear.
I did get a kick out of his line about rule of acquisition 286 and to do with Morn, and I was like, wait, there's a whole rule of acquisition about Morn, and Rob's like, there's no such rule, and he's like, there should be, and I enjoyed that interchange. It's good, snappy dialogue.
I also, while we're talking about actually much less, even more seedy people, Quark says I should have gone to insurance. Better hours, more money, less scruples. I enjoyed that very much. And then we get to that point you were kind of mentioned earlier, Jimmy, alluded to in our first impressions. Business is bad because of the Dominion.
Right.
Yeah.
Quark, that's what's hurting Quark's business as the civilians are fleeing the station, which will play into our B plot more heavily. But I think it's nice it connects to the A plot here of, if you're a Bajor and just living on the station, it was an orbit around your world, so easy, great, wanted something different. But now you've moved. It's now a 3-hour runabout ride, so longer for shuttles, probably shorter for some other ships. They probably don't go to warp inside the system, so it's probably 3 hours of impulse, essentially, which we learned in this episode. It's 3 hours. I like that detail. A little further than I thought it would be. Quark having no business, and then he gets in a conflict with the one drunk Klingon in the bar, who was Kozak, John L. Bennett, credited as John Lendale Bennett, best known for 3 episodes of Deep Space Nine, 3 episodes of Space Above and Beyond. They're doing stunts for other things, so he's not like he's more of a stunt actor.
Yeah.
His other 2 parts of DS9, he does have another Klingon part in season 5. Obviously, a different Klingon because this one's dead. But he has a extremely relevant part as a human later this season. In a few weeks, middle of the season, Past Tense Part 1, he plays Gabriel Bell, which is a brief role for him. But if you will remember that name, you'll remember the name Gabriel Bell. I remember the name very well, 20 years after I last saw the episode. So, but I'm pretty sure he only briefly appears as Gabriel Bell, and then somebody else takes over the character. So, unfortunately. But yeah, he's got some memorable parts, but it looks like he's more of a stunt actor than an actor.
And then he ends up getting killed by Quark, and I wrote down something. Whenever I hear this phrase now, Keith, I hear it in your voice, and I hear it in the cleaned up version way I'm going to say it, which is, or I think I wrote after around and found out, but he got killed, and so I think you said it in a TNG episode. Picard said it in a much more eloquent way.
Yes.
And I enjoyed that. So there's
You're welcome to test that assumption.
The latest, the latest Vampire Weekend album has a song that uses that phrase a couple different times, and every time I hear it, I think of you, Keith. So there you go. But yeah, but Kozak found out. He found out.
He did. Quark then recounts the tale for the crowd. Man, he really plays up. He's a good storyteller. I think he kind of missed his calling there.
He should have been in that O'Brien episode.
He should have been. You're absolutely right. What if that been Quark and Bashir instead of O'Brien and Bashir?
Ooh.
Anyway, the storytelling. That would have been interesting. I actually kind of am digging that concept. Anyway, I get that Odo would never believe anything Quark says, But I loved the look on Bashir's face as Quark recounts the tale for the crowd. Like, Bashir is not buying it at all either. And
I didn't catch
season
it.
one, Bashir would have been eating it up. So I like that contrast in the character growth right there. Then we have the first Kate O'Brien scene where she reveals she's closed the school because all the Bajorans have gone back to Bajor, and it's just Jake and Nog who she's agreed to tutor, but there's no point in having a school open for them. Man, she's so unhappy, and she's so unhappy in her marriage. She's so unhappy in her career. Don't you just feel so bad for Keiko in this episode?
I was like, and maybe this is what they were setting up in a way, is like, how did he not know that was coming? Kind of a thing, you know, like, when's the last time you asked her how her day was? And I also thought when he was like, they were both asking how their day was, of course, the Kramer thing about marriage. What you do at the end of your day? You ask how your day was. That's what you do. It's a prison, man. But I wrote down Kate O'Brien, and then I was like, oh, they seem very happy with each other. Wait, what? Oh, no, they're not. No, they're not happy. Well, she's not happy. She's not unhappy with him, though, which I think was the nice thing about it. Wasn't like she was unhappy with him.
Well, it's also not like she was sulking or being belligerent or anything either. I mean, there was legitimate reason for him to go, well, I think it's okay. I mean, I can tell she's not okay because she's not, or she should be upset, but she's not acting upset. And that,
Yeah. Well, this is the stereotype part of my notes. So I had two back to back. I'll go back to the other one. At first I thought, is this a stereotype for her to be working on a bonsai tree? And then I was like, oh wait, she's a botanist. No, it's not.
No, it had nothing to do with race. It was purely to remind us that she had a career before Deep Space Nine.
Yes. So I was like, no, that makes sense. And it was a good looking bonsai. But I wrote down about our guy Kozak, typical drunken Klingon. Is that a stereotype, or is that actually what we see always? I mean,
I think they use that. They use that a lot as a device.
Yes.
For especially well, they're in a bar too. So I mean, I get the drunker Klingons are probably likelier to be there than on the battlefield.
Besides the fact that they're drunk, is there much of a difference between a sober Klingon and a drunk Klingon?
Well, they got the council
on and on about honor and be very surly, but it's not like they're. I guess Kozak. Well, he did. I guess he did step up his game. That's why he's no longer with us. But anyway.
I think it is a stereotype. I think it was used effectively here in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. It was a good setup. Good setup.
Yeah. I will say back to the point of there being a lot of Bajorans leaving the station and everything. If you notice, at this point in the series and moving forward, there's a lot more background actors in Starfleet uniforms. Before this, the background actors were all aliens or Bajorans.
Yeah.
And now we had, in this episode at least, a majority of the background actors are Starfleet officers, which there were only like 30 or 40 Starfleet officers prior to this episode.
I had that thought when Quark is like, look at all these people hanging out. And I was like, oh, why are there people? That makes sense. Why there are people there in uniform. So, yeah.
But yeah, why are there so many Starfleet people after years of not having a lot of Starfleet people? But it would make sense that Starfleet's going to send a lot more people out, especially now you have the Defiant staff as well as the station.
If you played, and I was like, use betting odds over under on how many times you're going to say honor. And then I just changed it to, how drunk would you be if every episode you drank every time they said honor or dishonor? You'd be very drunk, is what it would be. Which kind of leads me to my next one.
And that is why Klingons are drunk.
Yeah, to my next, now we're in the honorable section. Honorable. Grilka comes in and is like, she pulls the knife and Quark leaps over the bar and grabs a tray and she's like, this is the man who killed my husband. And I'm like, what is the way to react to somebody you're unarmed and they pull a knife on you? What is the way to react?
Like a warrior, I'm just gonna step up and like do that special forces move where he takes the knife out of the wrist, like.
That's true. I guess that's the Klingon way. It's like, no, you should have been like, kill me honorably. Try and kill me honorably. Is that all you got? Is that knife?
The Grilka is played by Mary Kay Adams, who is best known for 65 episodes of Guiding Light, 22 episodes of Battle Babylon 5, and this role. She will appear as Grilka again in a couple seasons later on DS9. We'll see Grilka in the future just once more. But I count it as yay. She comes back at some point as the same character, not just not. She was also in The Muppets Take Manhattan. So
Huh.
her credits stop in 2005. Don't see
I
it
didn't remember
after.
any Klingons in that. That's very strange.
Yeah, Groko was in The Muppets Take Manhattan. No, obviously not. Yeah, I like that she gets the truth after
Oh
the
yeah, she is.
gore. The gore forces him to keep lying, and then I love the exchange between Gore and Quark. Of Quark's like, "Is it good? Of course it's not good. He's dead." I love that.
No, actually, yeah, it was actually, of course, it is good because
Yeah.
that means it would have been an honorable death, and then
No,
Mhm.
no. He says,
but
"Of course it's not good that he's dead." I wrote down the quote.
are you sure? Because he was,
Mhm. No, no. He said, "Of course it's not good, but it would be honorable that his
hmm,
brother died in self-defense." He said, "If he died in self-defense, would it be good?" Of course it's not good, but it would be honorable.
huh?
I liked that exchange.
And an honorable death requires no vengeance. Your life would be spared. And I will say that's part of the humor and appeal of the episode is Quark just trying to figure out how do I play this, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm using an
True Quark.
80-year-old, 70-year-old reference of like Bob Hope, you know, in the Road to movies or whatever. There's better more recent examples, but kind of like I'm just trying to figure out how to get to make it through this, and yeah,
It's classic Cork. He plays it differently for different audiences,
yeah,
which makes absolute sense. I mean, later he tells Groka the truth, which is why she abducts him. The thing about the abduction, though, was like all that latinum left on the counter. Quark has to be panicking when he wakes up that he didn't get that latinum put away. Rom better come in and put it away.
Is lack of consent honorable to Klingons?
No, but I think there's a gray line here with Quark in some of her actions because she's doing it for the honor of her house. So if she's crossing a couple lines, but it's just a Ferengi that's getting hurt in the process, I think that's okay. Because Klingons obviously don't have a very high view on Ferengis, and why would they? But also, normally we're used to just seeing humans interacting with Klingons, humans interacting with Ferengi, humans interacting with Cardassians. I'd like to see Klingons interacting with Ferengi and confirming
Yes.
how you would think Klingons think of Ferengi. I love that they do that. That's great. Also, Groka could not become head of the family without special dispensation because she's a woman. Man, I guess that is probably still the biggest plot hole from Discovery having a female chancellor. But I guess depending on who's in power, those rules shift, right?
That would make sense, and also the time period. You know, any number
Well,
of things
the
could have
real
happened.
lifetime period, sure. But we now know the Klingons had a female chancellor 200 years before this, or 100 years before this. So,
Well, assuming it's the same continuity in universe,
it is. Discovery takes place in this universe.
it could be like the Fahrenheit universe or something.
It's not a separate universe. It's not friggin' Kelvin. Discovery is this universe. Thank you very much.
Celsius.
So obviously still thinking our world, and I'm still thinking the Klingon world in the 24th century.
Or in the 90s when this episode
aired.
Yeah. When women in the U.S. could do anything. It's only 2024 where the rights have been taken away again. That was meant to be facetious. That was meant to be tongue-in-cheek.
That's a sad laugh. But yes.
It's not funny, but it's funny, and it's funny that's not funny, and it's funny that's funny. Yeah.
Speaking of sexism, we skipped over a Cake O'Brien scene where O'Brien's making her dinner and she's like, "It's not our anniversary, it's not my birthday." He's like, "I'm married to the most wonderful woman in the galaxy day," which happens regularly, sometimes twice a day, which was clearly a reference to sex as part of this.
Yeah, that's
right? I didn't even think of it that way.
It's definitely,
wow.
Especially because she's like, "How do you celebrate? Do you celebrate with cake? Do you celebrate with this? Do you celebrate with fireworks?" Yes, fireworks. It was a sex thing. But I did wonder where Molly was during this episode.
Yes, and I
hiding.
I thought O'Brien was so clumsy with it that it made it fairly charming.
Yeah.
I appreciate the cheesiness of "My wife's the best wife in the galaxy." I liked that she went with it. I liked that she felt validated and special. I also liked that when he left for work the next morning, she felt empty. Like, that was well
Yep.
played. I think this might be
Oh, I didn't
Rosalind
catch that.
Dow's best episode of Star Trek to date, based
Yeah.
on the acting she did in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and why not best wife in the universe?
Well, because Star Trek only deals with Milky Way. We never, other than like a very couple of like things of outside our galaxy, we can't cross that. That's an expanse, where we cross it and Gary Mitchell becomes a god.
I was gonna say when no man has gone
Or
before.
Discovery talks to a species outside and they're going to destroy us if we don't, we don't leave the galaxy. So then we have the wedding, which our other Klingon in this episode, Tumek, played by Joseph Ruskin, best known for Smoke and Aces, The Scorpion King, 3 episodes of Alias, and Star Trek Insurrection, where he played Sona Officer Number 3, which ought to show you how big a part he had in that film. Also did an episode of Star Trek Enterprise as an alien doctor, and an episode of Star Trek Voyager as a Vulcan. But so like one-off Star Trek characters that don't matter. He actually did 3 episodes of DS9. This is his first. He'll do another episode later this season as a different character, and then he will reprise this role in season 5. Pretty sure that's probably the same episode Grilka comes back in. But we'll see Tumek once more.
The Gamesters of Triskelion. To go
what? He was
way back.
Triskelion?
Yeah. Joseph Ruskin, yeah. And then he also was in a few Twilight Zone episodes, including the classic. I know they're all classics, but To Serve Man. He was also in To Serve Man.
Is a classic, if there is a classic to be had. But now I'm wondering why they didn't have him reprise his role from the Games of Triskelion. They had original series Klingons come back. Why can't they have an original series Triskelion come back?
Yeah.
That would have been really cool. Yeah, I see that right now. He played Galt. Yeah, so the episode he'll be in DS9 in season 5 is the same one Grilka returns. So they will both return in a future episode. It's a great Klingon episode called Looking for Parmok in All the Wrong Places. Parmok being their mating ritual.
See that title and it didn't connect with me, but I love it right now.
Parmok is like their Panthar, except it happens a lot more frequently than every 7 years. It's every time they get into battle, I guess. What a wedding between Grilka and Quark. That was such a fun wedding.
So
I'm going to say fun, even though it was non-consensual.
Right. And along those lines, so I feel like he hints at consummation and she says no, pretty much. That seems dishonorable to me. That seems dishonorable. I think if you drug someone to marry, wait a minute, that doesn't sound good either.
So I get that.
No,
but I will say,
if the person who got drugged wants to have sex, yeah, and you made them marry you, I think they should get to have sex with you.
Get your point there. But I will say later when she asks Quark what she can do for him, after he helps her, saying, I'd like a divorce.
Yeah.
I love that because I feel like a lot of guys would have been like, let's consummate this thing. And I like that that's not the angle they take with Quark. I think this episode
or even
was
Latin.
That's where I went. I thought he should have said a divorce. By the way, I'm cleaning you out. I
get a percentage of your.
I want some alimony. Yeah, I become accustomed to this way of life. I expect some alimony or whatever. Yeah.
So my theory on why this is, and I think it's borne out by other episodes, but I feel like in the first couple seasons they almost went too far in villainizing Quark. And they were trying to pull it back and give him some redeeming qualities. Yeah. I think this episode was very much designed to be like, Quark is not a bad guy. We do love Quark.
Yeah.
Because, Quark was willing to sell him out to the Dominion or whatever in an earlier episode, an earlier season. So by season 3 on, Quark is now the lovable mischief maker, not the criminal that will sell you out for money. There's boy talk when O'Brien comes to talk to Sisko about his marriage, which is so stupid. And Kira says it's a human thing, which I love.
That was fun.
Kira says this is dumb because it is dumb. And seriously, Dax knows what it is, so why isn't she allowed to stay away? And she's been on both sides of the issue. You'd think she'd be a valuable insight. But no, she doesn't have a penis anymore, so she can't stay and talk to the boys.
I appreciated the scene, but I thought that part was just kind of weird. But I guess it doesn't have to be a group conversation, but yeah.
It doesn't have to be a group,
I think some of the implication though is that O'Brien would probably feel uncomfortable himself under the circumstances. Maybe maybe it's being around another man. Maybe it's the fact that he's a captain or commander. You know what I'm saying? It's like
I guess that makes sense. O'Brien he's not in that area. He doesn't seem the most eloquent. You're right.
Yeah.
No, I think he's just come to Cisco because he has a favor to ask of Cisco, not because he's looking for boy talk.
Right.
But I think given Dak's immediate stating her perspective, she'd be a good person to have in the conversation. She may have fixed this problem before it became a problem.
Yeah,
because O'Brien and Cisco both stupidly agree a cargo bay arboretum is a great idea, which my first thought was it's a good idea. But I also really love that's Bashir, the person who's been the lecherous creep that comes in and says, no, you can't turn her career into a hobby.
Well,
nice.
The fact that it's Bashir that says it is so meaningful.
I agree. I wrote Bashir got there eventually, but he was listening. He was taking it all in because what Cisco says is, I just hope it works because he's not totally sure it's going to work, but he's hopeful and he's willing to help. Yep. And then Bashir's kind of like, nah, here's the deal, dude. And I appreciate what you did, but yeah, it's not going to work. And so
Bashir of all people.
I love that about Bashir. There, I thought that was great.
I think that completes Bashir's redemption arc. Mm-hmm. We had a pretty awful Bashir, but for him to have that level of insight, and also, I feel like either the original series or Next Generation would have said, "Yeah, giving Keiko an arboretum in a cargo bay is totally the solution. We don't need to give her a plot because she's a female character." And I love that DS9 gave her the agency of you can't turn a woman's career into a hobby. That was such a good message for the 90s.
Yeah, and the other thing about the way Bashir approaches it is it starts with them being like, I've got this experience and a disagreement and some flowers will buy you this much time and this will buy you this much time. But so it still is like, we're going to refer to his days when he was like that and screwing up with women all the time. But now he has grown. So
he was very young in season 1. I want to say 23, 24, his character.
Wow.
Fresh out of the academy. Skipped the ensign because he went in as an officer. But he was so young and inexperienced.
DS9 as well.
He had just graduated Starfleet Academy. And so you give him some leeway there because we were all so dumb when we just got past college age, right?
Whether
he went to college or not.
Yeah.
So dumb.
No.
Yeah.
I knew everything by then.
When Deep Space Nine started, I was in my mid.
He knew everything. He'd known everything. He
knew it all.
He'd forgotten stuff. He's Benjamin Buttoning this thing.
Yep.
Something else I love about this episode is Quark going through the ledgers to find the treachery of Dagar, and then walking through the whole council, going over the numbers where they're all looking at their pads while he's explaining it. Wonderful Ferengi humor. So good.
Yeah.
Also loved the line between Quark and Groko where she's like, "Take your hand off my thigh, or I will shatter every bone in your body."
Yeah, the laughter between the two of them just never even faltering was just so great. That just the way they played that.
They had real chemistry. I don't think they started with that bar scene where she abducted him. There was no chemistry. There wasn't. But I think they both the actors grew chemistry over the course of the episode, which is a good feat.
Yes.
To have no chemistry in your first scene and get chemistry later.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed she only comes back for one more because, I would have. That's my alternate episode is that Quark stays married and we have occasional appearances from Groko. She lives on Kronos, he lives on DS9, but they keep the marriage alive for alternate reasons and she shows up once or twice a season. That would have been really cool to do.
It's a classic tale of a kidnapping and forced marriage turning out great. It's the rom-com we've been wanting for years.
That's Beauty and the Beast right there.
For years, really. Maybe not lately, but yeah. Just to go back a little bit, and I can't remember exactly where it happens, but I guess it happens every time we're in a Klingon court or a high council or whatever. They get into all these, essentially, I call them Klingon parliamentary rules or the rules of or whatever. And it's just like, well, this has to happen because this happened and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, stop it. Will you please stop? I don't care for it, but.
I love that sort of thing, unfortunately. Just no, I mean, I think something about, at least in this episode, I thought it worked. It didn't feel like, it felt like at least somebody was playing fair. The right people in authority were playing fair,
That's a
whereas you
fair
had
point.
like, yeah, you had it wasn't like a railroading thing with like Worf being marched through
Right.
something and then trying to, you know.
That's fair. They were setting out the rules at least.
Mm.
But yeah, while we're on Grilka, fashion. I thought her teeth, her bad teeth, were great. I thought, I mean, the makeup or whatever, great job. That said, still very attractive. So,
Indeed.
and she didn't even need a boob window like the Duras sisters. So,
I think a lot of it was, and I started thinking about this throughout the episode. It's just whenever you have Klingon appearances, male or female, a lot of it has to. I mean, there seems to be some sort of like actor or directorial choice as far as how much of the voice do they have to do to I'm a Klingon, or to I'm talking around my teeth, or the other thing. It just she was very well spoken herself.
Yes.
Wasn't putting that much into it, and really the council members weren't really. You know, it was. I started thinking about the evolution of that, especially when the Klingons came back from, you know, the original series and to do we were just talking about that earlier, you know, the guest spot in DS9. Original series Klingons weren't even, it was just, we have guys with, you know, smudges on their face, just speaking normally. So
I love Quark's speech. I wrote down Quark speaks truth to all this honor nonsense. He reduces it to, he destroys it with this whole like, it's an execution. That's not honor.
yes,
There's no honor in that. And you know, so I love that it's like, yes, Quark. So another one.
I mean, it's Quark's smart, and he uses his smarts to get out of this. I mean, the whole line where he's like, Dagor, son of whatever, as he comes in, adds humor to it, right? But we get this whole scene before that where Grilka thought Quark had honor, and Rom does have honor, and then I guess so does Quark. But bringing Rom in was really interesting late in the plot. I see it. And I liked. I agree with Steven. I liked Quark suing for honor. Essentially, I like that Gowron recognizes the honor in Quark for what he's doing, because I think Quark does have some honor there. And then when they all do the back turn, just like they did to Worf when he was cast out, like good use of calling it back. I liked Gowron's line, "A brave Ferengi, who would have thought it possible," which was good. And then Gowron sees through the situation because Gowron's smart too. And he's like, you know what? This charade has been amusing. I've enjoyed it. Thank you. Grilka, you can have the house. Because that's what you wanted. I liked that a lot better than having to do the artificial stuff to keep it going, right? Like, yeah.
I will say, yeah, when I saw the bat lift come out, I'm like, oh, are we going to have to do this? And then we did. And I'm like, okay, that's actually smart. That's really good.
It's very well done.
Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned the back term, because that's, I think I was became a sucker for that since I was a kid. Just the blood sport movie. You ever see that with Van Damme?
The final Quark scene. I did skip the final Keiko Bryan for a second, but Rom saying to Rom, like, money isn't everything. And that to me is like, okay. The whole honor and respect stuff, I think Quark's learned a lesson a little bit here. And I like the further development of Quark and Rom in this episode a lot.
That last scene's cute. It's very cute.
I consider this a very good episode, despite some weaknesses.
Yeah. Talking about it made me enjoy it more.
I was about to say the same thing. I talked myself up again to just like, oh yeah, that's the reason why I like this. And
yeah, you guys, the discussions brought me around. That final Keiko scene, of course, Keiko's no fun at a casino either. I've never understood what people see in that game. Don't they ever get sick of it? I mean, if you don't like gambling, you don't like gambling. If you do, you do. Come on, Keiko. But then they mentioned where we started, the 3 hours by roundabout. And I was like, oh, that sounds familiar. I did do that for like 2 years in my first marriage, and for similar reasons. I wanted her. She wasn't finding anything satisfying where we were living, so she lived in a different place. And you know, I didn't have a runabout. I had a Saturn, but you know, in 1998, it was just as good as a runabout.
That scene where O'Brien tells Keiko to get a Bayshore so she can be a botanist again, which overdue, like
Yeah.
shoving her off into a teaching position. This makes so much sense for her. I kind of wish we'd gotten to see her as a teacher more than like twice.
Yeah.
But that's just because they kept leaving her out of episodes. I like that she's going. It's only for 6 months. It's only 3 hours away. It's totally doable. But I also chuckled at the sexist. It was almost an anti-sexist part of the scene where she's like, "I can't be away from you and Molly." And he's like, "No, you can take Molly." It's sexist because it's anti-sexist because she assumes she's leaving Molly, but it's
Right.
sexist because he's like, "No, you're taking Molly."
I did enjoy that. And I was worried for a second that she was actually going to not do it. And then I'm glad she did.
Yeah, and I think through the rest of the series, that's how we frequently explain her absences, as she does assignments for her actual career instead of hanging around waiting for her husband's job.
Yeah.
Which, to be completely fair, with taking sexism out of it, he works really long hours because the station's a mess and frequently needs a lot of extra work. And her botanist job is probably a 9 to 5. So it makes sense for her to have Molly at this point. But I did like her assuming that he's just going to keep Molly. that was a nice touch rather than just, I'm glad they didn't just assume that she was going to take Molly.
My favorite episode was I wish a Romulan had been killed, because I've enjoyed the Romulans of late in TNG and DS9, and I always enjoy the Romulans. But also, I alluded to this earlier, more Gowron. I just wanted more Gowron. But other than that, that would be my alternate episode.
Definitely be more Romulans in DS9. I can guarantee you that. The other note I didn't have was this is directed by Les Landau on the regulars. The teleplay is by Ron D. Moore, but the story is by Tom Banco, who was an editor for 40 episodes of TNG, 60 in DS9, and 57 of Voyager. He has no other writing credits as far as I can tell. He did direct 2 episodes of TNG, but he's mostly an editor that got a chance to write an episode. And I think he did a pretty decent job not being a writer to make this one work. I mean, obviously helped along by Ron D. Moore doing the teleplay, but still good concept, interesting idea, interesting thing. Let's get to the rankings. Who was your shady character for House of Quark?
Dagor? Is that what we're calling him?
How could it be anybody else?
Yeah, that's my shady.
Oh, yes, correct.
Okay. D''Ghor is how that's spelled. Just making sure I recorded accurately. Who is your annoyance in the House of Quark?
Kozak. I'm glad he was.
Yeah.
Kozak's a good answer. I did Odo because he was so suspicious at first, and then Quark gets abducted, and we never see him looking for Quark. We never see him hunting down Quark, which I feel like that's a whole subplot we're missing. If they had done the Keiko O'Brien, the B story would be Odo searching for the missing Quark.
Yeah.
How dare he not? I assume he did search for him. We just didn't see him.
I just it didn't even occur to me. Just his delivery in that scene was just so good. Just the incredulity, just dripping from the you killed that Klingon.
but then you expect him to be searching for Quark when he goes missing. That's their dynamic. He cares about Quark.
Right.
Who are you having a drink with?
I had Keiko early on, and I switched to Grilka.
I did Quark. I think after this, he needs a drink. And he also needs some customers at his bar to pay for a drink. So
Grilka, probably for similar reasons.
Grilka's a great character. I'm not denying it. Ranking the episode, let's put it against The Search Part 2.
Yep.
Which is the bottom of this season thus far. I might be inclined to put it above Part 2. Definitely not above Part 1. But I thought Part 2 was kind of a letdown. So I might be inclined to go above Part 2.
In my mind, that's what I'm remembering right now, is us eventually downgrading Part 2.
I can't even load it in my head right now. Or wait, okay, yeah, all right, it's getting there. Huh.
I went to bring up the list of episodes for this season before I realized this is the third one. I should be able to
Search Part 1, The Search Part 2, end of list. I honestly would put this in the middle of the two, but I leave it up to you guys to decide if you agree or if it goes to the bottom. I know it's not going to go at the top.
Really? All right. Well.
Yeah, I don't think I put it number 1 either.
Keith?
No, you're right.
Put it number 1?
You're right. I did think it's just this is actually a classic case of recency bias for that, because I was just like, oh, I love this. It's a lot of fun. It's
it is a lot of fun.
It's not as much meat as a Dominion episode though, as far as everything that was revealed there.
Yeah.
What's number one right now?
Search part 1.
Huh. See, I think I remember liking part 2 more, but so
Oh
it's
no,
all
part 2 was far inferior. I
I
thought
think
part 1 was
we're
great. Part 2
Yeah,
was a
line on that
letdown.
one, too.
Hmm.
Okay.
I think I probably would have voted for part 2 though. Middle then, if that's. Well, wait, no, damn it.
You
All
won
right,
at the bottom.
no bottom. Yeah.
So Steven's the tiebreaker.
I think, and maybe this is my recency bias, because yeah, I'm the same way. Going in, I would have been like, no, this is 3. Or yeah, before we talked about it. And I'm also thinking, yeah, like you just said, Keith, this was more fun. I'm gonna put this in number 2.
Okay, so it's gonna break up already. The Search part 1 and 2 makes sense. I approve, obviously, because I agreed with that. But next week, Equilibrium. I don't know. Equilibrium.
Yes, there you
The
go.
Trill homeworld is the setting. As Siska and Bashir take Jadzia home for treatment when she begins experiencing hallucinations after playing a tune she can't recall. Not exactly the right order of operations, but okay. Also, very oddly written. The Trill homeworld is the setting. That's. I kind of feel like this is another instance where we go in and fix IMDb, but I probably won't because somebody else that's listening should go in and fix IMDb. Anyway, until then, live long
and honorably, and prosper.
Yep, that was pretty much it. Prosper with honor.
Honorably, 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 honor.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's got the time?